you're not adjusting anything. You're just happy with what you're wearing. You're focused on the conversations. You're not worried about yourself at all. You can be just who you are within the room.
All right, and welcome to another episode of Truth Talks, the podcast that gives you real strategies for sustainable fitness transformation. And we have another special episode today because we have another client feature episode. And today we are interviewing James. James, what is going on? How are you doing today?
Good, Parris. Nice to see you. How are you?
Yeah, pretty solid, man. I like the painting in the background I was telling you earlier. It's very Canadian of you. And so James is from the West Coast. So where are you at right now?
I'm in interior BC, Peachland.
Okay, right on.
But live in Calgary. So
Live in Calgary. Awesome, man. Super, super cool. Fellow Canadian. And I think you have some really awesome value that you're going to add to the audience today. Okay.
so.
I think there's some things that are like very relatable. We're going to squash some self-limiting beliefs as we typically do. And I'm really excited to talk about it. So first, James, I want to hear, we've been working together since last October or something like that. Somewhere around there, right? So tell me a bit about just where you were at when we first started. I mean, obviously, I know most of the answers to the question I'm going to ask you, but for the audience, right? So starting with where were you at kind of last October when we started in your fitness journey?
Yeah. So been going to the gym for quite a few years, and I always considered myself a fit person. But post-university, kind of found myself focusing more on work. I work in finance, so there's a lot of travel and late hours. I'm just trying to make sure I live my life at the same time and trying to find the right balance there. And I found kind of post-university, I'd gotten off the wagon a little bit, so to speak, in terms of where I wanted my body to be. I was going to the gym 5-6 times a week, but wasn't training to the intensity that I realized I needed to be at. And then also wasn't eating as healthily as I could have been, and just kind of building out those systems correctly. So it was just kind of missing those aspects. So it was at kind of 13 pounds heavier than I am today. And really kind of, not happy with how my body was looking. So needed to have that wake up call. So was introduced to you by one of my friends and thought it would be good to invest in myself, other than just in how I was kind of educating myself, investing in my brain. I wanted to invest in my body as well. So that's kind of where I was at the time in October.
I like that, man. Because you're a guy who obviously, cares about his work, dresses well, invests in his education, right? But then what I see with a lot of guys is like they have those boxes checked, but then they're missing that final box of like, hey, let me like really elevate myself at the same time, because that really completes the puzzle. And I was gonna make a reel on this. I see a lot of the finance guys working downtown here in Toronto, right? And they're always walking down, and I'm like, man, you're like, you look so great, like you got the nice suit, everything's there, but then you just there's something missing. Like there's something missing to complete that, like just overall look. And you can tell it's not even just about the appearance, it's also how they carry themselves, right? There's a difference between how you carry yourself and in those situations. So kind of walk us through initially when we first started. Obviously you're at a point where you're like, all right, I need to elevate my standard that I set for my health and fitness. Now, what were kind of the major changes that you saw when we first started going, first in terms of just like the protocol compared to what you were doing before?
Yeah, I watched all the science-based stuff on Instagram and like followed it closely and tried my best to do that, but it wasn't being implemented properly in that. Like, so the first switch was like every time I sent you a form video is like slow this down, really focus on the contraction and like making sure that I'm focusing on the stimulus more than just, all right, this is a 4x10, check that off the box. I think that's what people that are kind of high performing and really type A, they're very good at checking that checklist off, but I wasn't doing it effectively.
Okay.
You did was like, all right, let's pare this down from like an hour and a half long workout to something that's like 45 minutes an hour, but really focus on those slow movements, drop some of the rep ranges, switch around some of the movements there. And I think, it was kind of, like you say, get specific. So like targeting different muscle groups that needed some work, whether that was my arms or my legs, and bringing those in, and then the nutrition thing and dialing that in. So I remember the first day that I tracked, like your target's 100 and 200 grams of protein, and I had 130 in my normal day. And like, that's a good amount, but it wasn't enough for what I was trying to do. So really tracking and getting that in line, and then also focusing on the calories. And that's a kind of one thing I like about you is like, you're not being prescriptive with food. You'll give examples um, like certain proteins are better than others and certain carbs and those things. And whenever I ask questions, you provide that. But you really dive into like, all right, this is the protein you need, this is the calories you need. The rest you can kind of fill in as fits with your schedule and your lifestyle and what you like to eat. So it's
Sure.
you were able to really distill down of like what I need to do. And then I also trusted you in that. Like you're like, well, I know you want to put on muscle, but you're at 200 pounds right now. I think we can lean you down, make you feel way better, which absolutely works.
Yeah.
um, and so we got down to 182 at the lowest. And like, I mean, my knees are feeling better and my my overall confidence is feeling better. There's just so many different aspects that I didn't really realize that were lacking, just by changing those protocols into those few specific things.
Cool, man. Thanks for diving into that. And yeah, like my goal is not to make things overly complicated. I think people are almost surprised by how simple things can be. You have to press the right buttons. And just for context, like you're 6'4", so you're a pretty big guy, right? And one of the main levers that we pulled was, yeah, just getting the right protein intake. And even just that in general can make a massive difference. But the problem is people have never actually tracked before, so they don't know that they're falling low in protein, and maybe they're not sure exactly how much protein they should be eating. And then last thing is they're not tracking properly. Those are like the three kind of biggest mistakes. But it seemed like as soon as we dialed that in, and again, you had to trust that I was like, hey man, we can do a recomp, and also we can do some body recomposition and lose some body fat at the same time. And then like we'll reverse you out into building phase, which we're at right now. And I feel like you almost have to put a certain amount of blind trust in me because you don't yet really know what that means, and you're like, all right, I guess that's what we're doing, right? But then when did you start to see the initial visual progress and really be like, okay, this is clicking for me, I understand what we're doing?
Yeah. I mean, it was pretty quick. So start of October, by November, December, I'd already noticed a significant difference. Just in the way my body looked, like visible abs were coming in, a lot more veins in my arms,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
and just yeah, um, noticing those like off scale wins more. Within that, like clothes are fitting better, like jeans that were too tight prior were looser
A
at
little
that point.
looser.
So, and like suits needed to be refit.
Yeah, yeah.
Problem, but a good problem to have. But yeah, just kind of yeah, it was it was pretty quick overall in terms of
Mhm.
how fast my body changed, and then by January I felt like a different person, like almost like the identity had come along with it.
Cool,
Just
man.
in that trust of, all right, you've done this with many people before. Why fight what you works?
Mhm.
And I'm definitely happy I did.
Yeah, man. And I can appreciate that from my side too, because even though I do this all day, every day, and it's like a no-brainer for me, I get there's a little bit of trust that you have to do from your side. And also as guys, sometimes we have a bit of ego, especially obviously you didn't because you just jumped right in. But as guys who also have other accomplishments in life, we have the mindset of like, I'm that guy. I just do everything myself. Like, why would I listen to you? Like, I could do it myself. And I think that's the problem I see with a lot of like successful guys is they have a little bit of ego that kind of robs them of maybe maximizing their progress. And I think it's okay to realize like even if you're an expert or really accomplished in one domain, it's okay to then get some help in another domain of your life, right? Like, listen, there are some things that I'm really not great at, right? Like, for example, like let's say I was trying to like get my car fixed or whatever. Like, I don't know anything about that, right? So like, I'm gonna get the mechanic. He knows what he's doing. Here's the car, fix it for me, right? So I think it's okay to be kind of really great in one domain and then ask for help in another domain. It doesn't mean that you're not a man or anything like that, right? So obviously we got to a point of leanness where yeah, had some pretty like shredded abs. The body composition was in a pretty sweet spot, and I mean you still have nice abs now even in the building phase, which is awesome. But down then kind of seeing your body look like that, have you ever seen kind of that body composition before, and like what did that kind of unlock for you, I guess, on a daily basis?
Yeah, no, I have. And like, yeah, I'd been lean before, was runner in high school, played all the sports, but did not have muscle on me then. And then through university was like a bulking period. And then that just, as I said, continued into work, and kind of fell off the wagon a bit there. So doing that body recomp was great for me, and it's really built my confidence in everything else that I do, like whether that's just like in person work in terms of conferences and presentations.
Hmm.
I'm like, I've seen in your reels, you're not adjusting anything. You're just happy with
Yeah.
what you're
Yeah.
wearing. You're focused on the conversations. You're not worried about yourself at all. You can kind of be just who you are within the room. And it's building that kind of like base for you where
Hmm.
you feel good in your body, and therefore you can like project that out into the room, and feel better about yourself, and make other people feel better about you being there in some way, just by being more present in the room, basically.
That's a great way of saying it. It allows you to be more present, right? Like, cause if you were standing up there and yeah, you're adjusting your shirt, you're pulling it down. People are like, "What is this guy like? Okay, or is he a bit insecure?" Instead, you stand up there straight. Your shirt looks great. People are obviously going to pay attention to you, especially if there's women, with just different kind of attention. But and then the guys just respect you more, and you gather the attention. You just command authority just by standing up there. Especially if you're a tall guy, and then you also have a great physique. I mean, being tall already, you're commanding attention. Plus, like if you're a guy with some like charisma, and then also you stack like a good physique with that, obviously, like people are going to listen to whatever you're talking about up there. But if you're insecure about the way you look, it's going to show, and it's going to rob you from being present in the moment to deliver whatever information you're trying to deliver, which therefore it can affect your performance at your job, right? So apart from kind of the work situation, what else would you say was something else that you noticed was affected, by either the process or by the result of getting in great shape?
Yeah, obviously we've talked about it before. Like if I'm out at a party or something or a concert, I've noticed a lot more attention there in terms of whether that's guys or girls.
Yeah.
Just able to be kind of in that space better, and feel better about myself there. Uh, Going around like any activities that I'm doing as well. Like I was saying, I was in Tofino a few weeks ago
Yes.
and was out surfing, and just, but it's not an easy sport, but like felt like my body was in the place that I was able to kind of like, I'm stable. I'm able to be athletic on that, on the surfboard, and was able to get up like after two or three tries. And my brother was very annoyed with me on that. And I think just being able to be, yeah, kind of healthier across the board just allows me to live my life in a more full way where I can go travel and do these different activities and not worry as much about injuries, but then also just, yeah, be more kind of present in those things.
That's awesome, man. Super, super powerful. It's almost like, yeah, it unlocks a certain level of freedom. I think I made a story about this the other day or yesterday or something. And I was talking about how people think like the process of getting in shape just puts a bunch of restrictions on your life, but it actually gives you more freedom because you're no longer limited by either your insecurities between the years or your ability level in any situation. For example, surfing. And it wasn't like you, when we started working together, you were like way out of shape either. Like you were already training, you're already in a relatively, a decent average kind of gym guy type look. But there's a big difference between just going into anything and being like, I'm probably going to be somewhat decent at this activity no matter what, versus being like, I don't know, we'll see. Like, there's a big difference in the confidence there. So I think that's a really good kind of awesome piece of freedom that I think you experience in a lot of different ways. So that's
Yeah.
super cool, man. And
Yeah.
kind of going back to the travel piece, there's two different types of travel that you do, obviously. There's the work related travel, and then you also like to have fun and do some leisurely travel as well. So this is like one of the biggest self-limiting beliefs that I hear from guys that work similar roles to you, or other roles that travel a lot, is that they just can't do it because of the travel. So what was kind of a mindset switch, and then we'll go into more kind of tactical after in terms of managing the travel.
Yeah. Yeah. I think having you as like someone that built the system, getting specific with targets that I need to hit, and that I was able to plan around that with my work, whether it's like, okay, I'm going for a 2-day trip here. So I'll get my 5 day split in before that, and kind of strategize around that. Or when I travel, it's like, okay, what gym is nearby that I would be able to go to in the morning before kind of the work I have to do. And just having you on the back end as someone accountable that'll be like
Mhm.
seeing that,
Yeah.
I think is the main thing. That allowed me to be like, okay, you can search these things, you can um, set it up in a way that you can be successful with that travel, whether it's leisure or work. And another thing was just like, as soon as I land somewhere, I'm like kind of going straight to a grocery store, convenience store, getting like high protein drinks and like
Mhm.
some protein bars to make sure I can hit those targets throughout. And then when I'm at those events, it's like, all right, being cognizant of what I'm
Mhm.
eating. Um, Not going for the like sandwich that's slathered in mayo, just
Mhm.
because I know it's not going to be ideal for when I'm tracking it later. So it was really just that mindset shift of it doesn't have to be a write off.
Yeah.
It,
Okay.
it, those days that I'm traveling, it can fit within, and even if it's just like a 15-minute workout, 30-minute workout, just moving the body, and knowing, yeah, kind of when I go into the check-in at the week with you, I'd be like, these are kind of the strategies that we set out. Were we able to execute on those? And you giving
Mhm.
some like feedback and like building some ideas around that. So it's just, yeah, having you as someone that's also looking in on it, not
Mhm.
just being myself, built that accountability to be like, okay, we can make this happen. We can do this. It doesn't have to be those write off days when traveling.
Yeah, that's well said, man. Because I think a lot of people do have that on and off switch. It's like, okay, well, if I can't follow it perfectly, I'm just not going to train, not going to track anything, not going to pay attention to anything, not going to pay attention to my steps. It's like, well, hold on a second. Like maybe we can't be as precise as when we're at home, or maybe there's certain constraints based on how your meetings will flow during the day, or certain, I don't know, client lunches or customer lunches that you have to have. But like, what are our strategies for those specific situations, and how would we approach them? And I think even if we can get 80% of where we usually are in terms of precision or accuracy and stuff like that, then that's great. Because then when you come back, we didn't lose any momentum and we're just keep going in. Like I didn't notice any real slowdown of your progress or anything from my end that was noticeable, even with these trips or travel or anything, you know?
Yeah. And
So
I made sure it wasn't a complete write off. Like, yes, it won't be a day, but a C or a B is way better than a lot kind of day.
100%, man. 100%. And even like, so that's like in a work setting, but also when it comes to more kind of like recreational travel or events, obviously you love music festivals. We were talking about that. We always said John Summit. We make that joke of like how many freaking John Summit concerts is going to go to,
Yeah.
which is awesome, which is super awesome. And we, even before we hopped on, we were talking, I'm going to a music festival this weekend and how like, it's just more fun when you're in shape and like you don't have that like hesitancy even if you want to take your shirt off, like that's a setting where you can do that and you can kind of celebrate it. So how I guess did you manage things like the drinking or like I guess eating around these events? Like what was the kind of the mindset? Because again, it didn't hold back any progress. So like how did you do it? How do you pull that off?
Yeah. 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 I think that kind of um, banking process where you might not have as much, say, carbs and fats throughout the day because you know you're going to be drinking later on, was like one thought I'd be having. So, like having more dense foods throughout the day that'll kind of sustain me throughout. And then also when you're at concerts, you're moving a lot. Like I'm getting 20, 30,000 steps. So that helps on the calorie burn there. But just, yeah, trying to be cognizant and like planning ahead. Like when we drove out to Whistler for John Summit, I brought some foods with me, like yogurt and like protein milk and all these things just to plan ahead, which something I wouldn't have done prior to
Mhm.
October.
Fair enough,
So just
man.
making those small changes that um, seem a little weird at the time, but I think my friends and family are used to it now.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and just, yeah, not be like, you're investing in yourself at the end of the day. Like whatever makes you feel best is what you're trying to do with this. At least what I'm trying to do with this is make sure I feel my best self. And so I shouldn't be afraid to do those things and
Totally.
bring those random things with me on trips. And then also when I'm having breakfast, lunch, and dinner, thinking about, all right, I'm drinking later. how
Hmm.
much do I want to allocate to that?
Gotcha.
Uh, I mean, it sounds like an annoying thing to manage, but it's not like a lot of thought necessarily.
Hmm.
Like it's kind of just a switch for me where it's all right. There'll be 400 calories going to drinks or 500, whatever it is, and just adjusting that.
Yeah, like it's literally those tiny decisions or proactive like planning pieces that yeah take a little bit of effort, but then once you do them, they're like such a great lever for staying on track. Like it's totally worth the little bit of mental bandwidth that you spend towards that is totally worth the returns of you staying on track, right? And it's interesting you say like from the outside seemingly like weird behaviors, right? But what I like to remind myself is like there's a reason why not everybody looks like Captain America, right? Like there's got to be some different way of living that we have to do compared to the average person in order to achieve that look and achieve what we achieve. So like it's almost like we need to lean into that, and even behaviors that seem maybe abnormal, quote unquote, from the outside, it's like those are also some of the behaviors that also allow us to then achieve what other people don't, right? In that aspect. Um, if these are the things that we value and matter to us, we're not here to choose what other people value. That's not up to us. Just like it's not up to them to choose what we value and focus on either, right? So very cool. Okay, man, this is some really good stuff. So I want to kind of touch on some of the notes that you also sent over as well. So you mentioned something around decision fatigue, okay? And this is something that I've talked about, and one of the reasons why I still have a coach as well. Throughout our day, how many freaking decisions we have to make between work, life, like responsibilities, you name it. It's a lot of thinking. So, what was kind of the role of having somebody just say, "Hey, this is what we're doing. Communicate back. Let's get this done." Like, what was the difference going from managing everything yourself to then having somebody just kind of laying out what you need to execute on? Like, how did that go?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was it brought the joy back into working out and like improving my body where I can just go do the workout, go onto the Trainerize app that you use, just work through the numbers, check off those boxes. It really like simplified things for me. Whereas prior it was yeah like decision fatigue. What time am I going to go to the gym? What are the specific split that I want to do now that my 8 weeks are up? Going through Reddit and those things, trying to
Oh
find
yeah,
uh,
Reddit.
workout routines and like, um,
Yeah.
should I do it in Excel? Should I download Trainerize, do it myself? All these different things that like I wasn't doing but wanted to, because like I had all these other responsibilities with work. I want to be able to travel and
Yeah.
go to the world and all these things that I have to decide on. There's so many things going on that now that I have you, I don't have to think about those things. So that's one thing that's just completely off my list to do, and I think that's really helped with me being able to travel more, where I have more time to do those things, or like even like I find myself organizing more of my friends' get-togethers
Mm,
a lot more recently, where
interesting.
I have that time to be like, okay, this is what we're doing. I booked this
That's
and
cool.
this. Yeah, and so it's really kind of opened up a lot of different aspects that I didn't realize were being hindered by the fact that there's so many decisions throughout the day. So having the ability to take that off the list, and like one thing I've really noticed, is that kind of consistently eating similar things
Hmm.
has made it
Hmm.
so much easier. Like I'm sure if you've seen in my chronometer, my lunch and breakfast are very similar. My breakfast is a yogurt bowl every day, and just having that to get out of the way in the morning, it just makes everything so much easier and really opens up the
Totally.
rest of my day, where I don't have to think about those things. I think it's like similar to like, all right, Mark Zuckerberg has like the same shirt and pants that he wears
Yeah.
every day. I think there's like something in the consistency that allows you to be more effective at other things so that you don't have that decision fatigue.
100%. Just opening up so much more mental bandwidth. I think people don't think about that a lot, but they think, like, for example, they think tracking is going to take mental bandwidth, but then getting into routines actually removes it because if you're not like dialed in on your stuff, then you do have to think about, oh, am I getting breakfast out or here, or do I have to plan that extra time? What's it going to be like? All these things versus like, nope, this is kind of how I eat day to day. And I think most successful clients, I would say like 90, 95% typically have similar 1 to 2 meals per day. that they like and they might modify slightly. But just having that consistency and those anchor points in your day to like anchor you into a certain routine really sets up like the rest of your day. Like my I would say even myself, like I find my workflow is so much more organized because my meals and training fall within that, right? Like they almost like goes together as like a skeleton of like how I build out my day, and everything kind of feeds into the other aspect. Do you find that as well with like your workflow kind of falls with your meals or your training? Like it's kind of all kind of synced in.
Yeah. Yeah, like I go to the gym before work, so have my quick carbs beforehand, go hit my workout, come back, have my yoga bowl, and then boom, 9 o'clock hits and I'm working. And I'm focused because I've kind of checked those things off my list and I've been productive in the morning, and I just feel the freedom to kind of do the rest of the day. So then it's kind of systematized from there too. And then boom, 12 o'clock hits lunch.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
much like in those routines, which yeah, having those routines allows that kind of freedom for other things. Where on my travel days, I don't have to be perfect and everything there, and like yeah, because I'd have this routine that I know works and can trust and have confidence in,
Hmm.
and so it just allows the rest to kind of fall in place. And yeah, it's kind of like that. You have a jar of a day, you have certain tasks that are larger
Hmm.
that you have to fit in there, and then around that you fit those smaller pebbles and bits of sand around to like really fill out the day. I think is like being able to kind of check those big things off and have you to make those decisions for me allows that kind of freedom to fill the rest in with things that I love to do.
That's a cool analogy. I like
Yeah.
that. That's really awesome, man. This is a great conversation so far. I think because obviously for you, and I want to go back to kind of like progress now because I think we hit on some like really awesome like lifestyle stuff, and just like process oriented stuff. So obviously we did the fat loss phase, right? And did some body recomp and got in pretty kick ass shape, ab veins, that kind of stuff. Then we reversed kind of food up, back up a bit, started filling out, and now we're like entering into a more kind of specific building phase. So did those kind of phases translate into what you would expect, or was there any sort of learning between either in the fat loss phase or maintenance or kind of coming into building phase? Anything that really kind of surprised you along those different phases? Because like this is the first time where we've kind of gone very specific. I know we talked about getting more specific with the goals. I think this is maybe the first time, correct me if I'm wrong, that we've gone really specific into different phases and had them kind of like productively stack on each other. So what anything that like surprised you throughout those different spaces?
Yeah, I think initially like dropping body weight, trusting that would actually be kind of progress to my goals was one thing, and the calorie targets you had set, I was concerned might be hungry all all the time and get hangry. But I was surprised that like just having that small deficit and the pounds kind of progressively coming off over time um, was not as challenging as I thought it would be. And it came down to like, all right, here's some strategies, here's some foods that'll keep you fuller for longer. Make sure you get your fiber in. Just like a few things to focus on that had worked for you and it worked for other clients that you passed along to me that made it a lot easier. So I think having that kind of knowledge base just made it more simple and made sure I wasn't hangry throughout it. So it's a diet that was doable and like could still live my life around, like was still traveling for work and more social settings and drinking and all these things. I didn't have to like fully cut all that off,
Yeah.
which I think a lot of people assume you have to, which yeah, just isn't true. Just by setting a few different strategies around that. And then now transitioning into the building phase, I really like the kind of incremental process where you added a few hundred calories here, a few hundred calories there every few weeks. And we would do kind of physique check-ins. I send in body stats in terms of weight and body comp. And from there, you kind of make decisions on what works. And then just like progressively adjusting that to be in the right range. So really being scientific with it of like um, trying to add 1.5 pounds per month and just just being consistent with that and finding the right calorie amount because every body's
Yeah.
different.
Exactly.
And like, my activity levels change throughout the months as well. So just yeah, kind of having those I kind of marginal changes would have been different than how I would have done in the past. I mean,
Mhm.
like the classic dirty bulk.
Yeah, yeah, just eat
That's what I
whatever.
had to do after high school, where I just felt like I couldn't eat enough. But now it's like, all right, we'll slowly add this in, and then as you add more muscle, and your BMR goes up, then we'll adjust.
Mhm.
Um, just being more scientific with it.
Cool, man. Yeah, scientific and like calculated, because that's really the cool thing about doing a very calculated like fat loss and recomp phase, and then being at that position, you're like primed to then tackle a productive building phase where your body fat's not also just going to creep up way too much. Where now you look like a marshmallow, and you're like, well, I guess I got to cut again. You know what I mean? Like we're at the point where I feel like even at the end of this building phase, you're still going to have like visible abs. And then if we want to press the fat loss button there, within a few weeks we're already going to be shredded and with more muscle too in the right places. And I think that's really where we want to be, at a place in our fitness journey where every phase, as I said before, productively stacks on the previous phase, and we're very intentional with what we want to get out of each phase. Like for example, right now we're like, all right, these are the muscle groups that we're really focusing on. We're going to bring up volume for those, adjust some other things, remove some of the energy we're putting onto some other muscle groups that are a little bit more dominant or responded a little bit better. And then we're constantly kind of putting clay in different areas, and that's how we're kind of completing the physique. And to the point where I'm really excited at where things are going to go. I just sent you a check, and I think last night or whatever. I'm excited about where the look is going to go over the next few months. And just kind of, yeah, getting more specific with like what exactly we want to get out of each phase, I think has a lot more power. It's not just like, oh, I just want to be in better shape. Well, what the hell does that even mean? You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
yeah,
like how are we supposed to craft the game plan? So that's awesome, man. Thanks for sharing that. Okay, I don't want to take too much more of your time because I know we're creeping over the half hour thing here, but I do want to ask you first, any self-limiting beliefs that you feel like were smashed in this process. So self-limiting belief is something that you believed to be true that was holding you back from the next level, that now you realize were just stories that you kind of had in your brain that aren't actually true because you've busted past them now.
yeah. I mean, being a tall guy, being skinny all my life, my legs, just always thinking, oh, my knees are gonna hurt. I'm not gonna be able to back squat. I'm gonna forever fold like a pancake because my legs are too long relative to my torso was one thing that I would always tell myself. And like that was something you busted in. It's just like you just need to train range of motion more, and like having you to review my movement patterns. And I remember like when we started doing the pendulum squat, you're like, you need to get lower. We're setting the foundation now, and it'll allow your muscles to react to it better. So I think that was one thing that I hadn't really realized, was just, yeah, being more specific with the movement patterns that we were
Mm,
choosing and the machines that we were using, and also just getting the ego out the way, dropping the weight, and properly focusing on the movement really allowed me to, yeah, start building out my legs. And I'm much happier now with them. Not afraid to wear shorts with them.
nice, nice.
And that's something that I'm excited to grow more. And I prior did not enjoy leg days, and now I look forward to them because I
Right
know
on.
it's growing something that I used to not be confident in, and it's also improving just my quality of life. Like I'm able to go a lot harder when I'm skiing. I've been skiing
Mm,
my whole life, and before it was kind of feeling it in the knees the day after, and now it's
mhm,
just I can go from that to yeah, just kind of going every day, I'd be fine because the proper training is being done, and my knees are much healthier from that. So I think that was kind of the main self-limiting belief that I've realized has changed a lot. Because yeah, I knew where my body could go, but I just wasn't doing it correctly.
okay. That's cool. That's an interesting one. I actually wasn't expecting that, so I'm glad that
Yeah.
you mentioned that. That's why I ask these questions, because I always like when we do these podcasts, I always learn like one or two things where I'm like, oh shit, I didn't even know that was like important or something that was like a value to. So that's cool, man. That's really cool. And I want to ask you, because we asked every client this, is what is one truth that you realized about yourself throughout this process so far?
Mhm. Yeah. I was trying to think of kind of
It's a tough
where to
question.
go this. Yeah. And I think for me, it was just having that accountability, what was the thing that I needed, where focusing on the right things, having someone that really like points you in the right direction is great, but also having someone that makes sure you're checking off those boxes correctly, was the main thing that I was missing. Like I'd felt like I knew all the things that I needed to get where I am, but just wasn't focusing on the right things. Focusing on the intensity of my workouts, making sure that my recovery is right, not being in the gym for too long, so that
Yeah.
I make sure that I get there the right amount, and just being, yeah, kind of focused on the quality of the time that I'm spending on those things. And I think, yeah, bringing that accountability led to the systems, which allowed me to achieve the goals that we were aiming at, but then that allowed the identity to change. I think that
Mm,
was the main thing, that I wasn't expecting to learn, because
really?
I felt like my identity was there, but it really wasn't.
Really interesting.
It wasn't at the point. I mean, like the physique kind of speaks for itself of where I was in
Mhm.
October to January, and it I was surprised that it only took a few months to change that, and really be more aligned with who I wanted to be rather than where I wanted to go, kind of thing. I guess. So yeah, just having more of that self belief, and knowing that I have the confidence because I was able to achieve those things, and
Nice.
it all came down to having someone that kept you accountable to what you were
Yeah.
doing.
That's powerful, man. I talk about identity shifts. I might ask you to like expand a little bit more, like specifically on the identity shift before we log off, because that is something I talk about so often, but it's really hard for me to explain to people. And it's one of those things where people are probably think it's all just like woo, stuff, right? That I'm just like
Yeah,
pulling out of nowhere. But I honestly believe that. And Cordy and I were talking about this the other day of how I feel like one of the reasons why I've been able to stay so consistent and specific with goals is because the identity of like who I want to become is reliant on me checking those boxes and reliant on me being dialed in. So I'm curious, like, to hear from you, like, when you talk about the identity shift, like, what does that mean a little bit more specifically before we hop off here?
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's kind of what we've been talking about this whole time in terms of like those systems. Like, I'm someone who, when I travel, I'll get a workout in, or I'll go to the convenience store and get a protein drink, and like really focus on those things that move the dial. I'm also someone like, the identity is someone that pushes myself in the gym. I really focus on stimulus and making sure I hit those things, and also like when I travel, I bring yogurt and
Yeah,
protein
yeah,
milk.
yeah.
So those kind of like little adjustments, that have come along the way that, um, fit those variables that we're focusing on. It's just
Mhm.
someone that, yeah, I know the same thing, the kind of woo woo identity thing, but
Yeah,
it's yeah, just someone that, is willing to invest in themselves, and kind of push those little levers that make the difference, rather than just, all right, I'm gonna give myself this week off because I had a bad workout or
mhm,
whatever. It's
mhm.
just like, no, I'm someone that'll keep showing up for myself,
I like
in
that.
whichever way it would be. Yeah.
That's it right there. The showing up for yourself, right? And also, I like to say, like, keeping the promises that you made to yourself. Like you said, you were going to commit and do this thing, and then you show up for yourself and you do the thing. And what that does is it creates this track record for you to look back on and be like, I'm that guy who follows through. And I think that is something that you take like anywhere in life, whether showing up for the people that around you that need you or at work or whatever. I think that like being dependable to yourself and others, I think is one of the most powerful character traits that I think a lot of guys need to step into a little bit more. And it's seriously one that I also hold like very close to my chest as something I respect in others as well, to be honest. So man, this is awesome. Okay. Again, I know this is going a bit longer. Last thing, one takeaway for people watching at home, something that you wish you knew sooner, or something that you want to leave the people that are maybe, just dabbling, but they're not in it to win it with their fitness journey. Like what's the one mindset shift you'd say?
Yeah. I think for me, it was like, there are unknown unknowns. There's things that you don't know that you're kind of doing incorrectly. You can be in your own world, and just feel like you're doing everything right. But if the results aren't there, there's something missing. And having someone else come in that can kind of look at it and assess and be like, no, this is what you're missing is the thing. It could be that your diet's not quite dialed in right, or that you're not training to the right intensity. It could be any variety of factors. So like, be willing to invest in yourself and like have someone to come in and inspect what's going wrong.
Yeah, the inspector, point out the blind spots.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it'll save you so much time. Like I would not be where I am today without kind of investing in myself and working with you. I might get there one day, but it'll be a slower road. So why not invest?
Love that, man. That's great. That's a great place to leave it off. I always say like there's ignorance tax that we're all paying based on just not knowing what we don't know. You don't know what you don't know. And there's ignorance tax we all pay. And I think just having somebody say, hey, have you tried these couple of things that you're missing? And then that's like those levers are the ones that really exponentially create progress. So this has been awesome, James. Thank you so much for your time and the value you brought. I think a lot of people are going to take value from this. Very inspirational. And everybody listening, thanks so much for listening. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you know where to find us. If you want to reach out to James to make sure he's a real human, just comment below to make sure you can ask him, hey, James, are you actually a real person? It's not AI conversation. Feel free to do that. His abs might look AI, but I promise they're actually real.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, thanks,
Right.
Parris, for everything you do. Thanks for having me on.